Hello everyone, and welcome to my review of Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil for Microsoft Xbox. This was released in October 2005 for the Xbox, and it was also released earlier on in the year for the PC. The PC version was released as an add-on pack for Doom 3, meaning that you had to own and have installed Doom 3 on the PC in order for it to run. However, the Xbox version was released as a standalone product. In order to give some added value, the publishers also released Doom 2 and the master levels for Doom 2 with the Xbox version, and this was included on the disc. The game is set 2 years after the events of Doom 3. The UAC send a team to investigate a strange satellite signal coming from one of its Martian satellites. You are a combat engineer that is sent as part of the team to investigate. Not long after arriving on Mars, you stumble across an artifact which triggers a shockwave which kills the team that you're with, leaving just you and Dr. Elizabeth McNeil, who is the head of the expedition, left alive. There are scattered around Mars some other survivors, but they don't really add a lot to the story as such, so they're not really worth that much of a mention. Doom Resurrection of Evil has 12 new single-player levels. It doesn't sound an awful lot on paper, but there is actually quite a lot of gameplay to be had here. There's certainly more than your average add-on pack, and it's really good to see that so much effort was actually put into this. It wasn't something that was just rushed and pushed out the door, that there was some attempt to create an original story set in the Doom 3 universe. There are 6 new enemies as well, such as Hunters, Vulgars, Bruisers, Forgotten Ones, and new versions of the zombies running around the place, as well as the Maledict, which is the main bad guy at the end of the game. You also have some new weapons at your disposal as well, such as the double-barrel shotgun, which is great for taking out bad guys at close range. The Grabber, which is very similar to the gravity gun in Half-Life 2, the main difference being that the Grabber can actually grab enemy fire such as plasma balls and fireballs and fire it back at them, as well as being able to pick up certain objects. The main difference as well with the Grabber is that it doesn't hold on to the objects as long as you can. With the gravity gun in Half-Life 2, there is a finite amount of time. You can only get a few seconds before it releases whatever it has grabbed because it needs to recharge. You also have the Hellstone, which is the aforementioned artifact that you pick up in the beginning. And as you can see here, about to enter combat against one of the Hunters, which is one of the new bad guys in the game. Now there's 3 of these scattered throughout various locations in the game, and they actually act as sort of end of area bad guys. And here's an example of using the Grabber gun in order to get hold of the plasma ball and fire it at the bad guy. Now, when you defeat the bad guys, you absorb their power into the artifact. Now this bad guy here, this Helltime Hunter, is actually using a distortion of time in order to be able to zip around the map at very high speed. When you defeat these Hunters, you absorb the power that they have. So whenever you activate the artifact, the power that you've collected from the Hunters, it automatically applies to yourself, and this becomes really useful later on in the game because it does get quite hairy. You know, you do face quite a number of seriously hard baddies later on in the game, so being able to use the artifact becomes absolute necessity in order to get through some really tricky areas. In fact, you won't get through some areas unless you do use the artifact, so it is important that, you know, at all times you make sure that you've got enough soul energy to use the artifact, which we'll come to in a brief moment. And that's really about it in terms of new features in the game. Perhaps the other main new feature is the fact that the pistol and the flashlight have been merged into one on the Xbox version of the game. Now, this was probably due in no small part to the fact that a number of people did complain that the Xbox version, the original Doom 3 version of the game was quite fiddly, having to choose between the flashlight and a weapon. that wasn't too bad, to be perfectly honest. It was only one button press on the Xbox version of the game, as it would only be pressing one button on the keyboard on the PC version. The main thing which was always an issue for the Xbox version was having the weapon selection, which you can see here. You're having to cycle through weapons. And there's an example of charging up the artifact. The artifact itself just looks like a heart beating. And in the bottom of the screen you can see there's a couple of icons which resemble the power that the artifact has. So you always need to bear in mind that you need to have charge for the artifact. Now you can charge the artifact up through seeing any sort of bodies lying about which have a strange glow on them. When you approach these bodies, you can then absorb the soul, and that charges up the artifact. So it is important to make sure that you have as much charge in it as at all times, because you never know when you're going to need it to get past a certain section. You can see here as well in the waste tunnels there's sort of different environments too. Like we've got this sort of toxic environment, and these are the new zombies I was talking about earlier that walk around in enviro suits, and they drop the new enviro tanks which you need. When you're wearing the enviro suit, your sort of vision gets a bit distorted, as if you're wearing the protective helmet which you see the Marine don. So that's a pretty neat inclusion as well in the game. Again, it's not, you know, huge, but it's just these subtle differences that do make the game quite enjoyable. And it's the kind of thing that, you know, mission packs should do, add-on packs should do this. They should significantly add to your experience of the game before, not just rehash old ideas. There should be enough new stuff in here to make it worthwhile. And so many add-on packs that you get these days, you know, you can just tell they've been thrown together in next to no time. There's been no real thought or structure put to them. You know, there's very little in the way of a new challenge. I mean, this is actually really a challenging game. It's significantly tougher than Doom 3, and that's how it should be. If you've already played and completed the original game, then you want a tougher challenge, and that's exactly what mission packs and add-on packs should offer: a tougher challenge, an upping of the difficulty, introducing new and tougher bad guys, more hazardous environments, and so on and so forth. And I think these days so many add-on packs totally miss the point. You know, they're just rehashes of what you've already seen, or they just unlock an area of the game that's already been there, and it just comes across as being a bit of a cop-out. And there's no real new challenge there. You're just ploughing through more of what you've done before. Whereas, like I say, with Resurrection of Evil, there's new bad guys, there's a new mission, there's a new objective, you've got new weapons, you have the artifact, which, you know, means that the game developers were able to introduce new environmental challenges to the game, as opposed to just, you know, shuffling the levels around. And it really does pay off. It really does work really, really well. You know, playing this game on the original, that was made for the original Xbox. I played it on the Xbox 360, but the game itself is an original Xbox game. I couldn't help but be blown away by just how good it was and how good it looks. I mean, for a game which was designed primarily for the PC, and PCs that were significantly more powerful than the original Xbox, it's really good to see that the developers have put so much time and effort into the game in terms of making it much better looking, and very few compromises in terms of the game design than before. It's a real shame that the Xbox actually went out of commission as early as it did. It probably had the shortest lifespan of most modern day games consoles, and this was because Microsoft wanted to get to the marketplace first with the Xbox 360. And what's interesting is, when this game was released in October 2005, it was just before the launch of the Xbox 360. And when you put this against Quake 4, which was released as a release title on the Xbox 360, there's not really a huge lot to choose between the two. Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil is well worth tracking down if you can find a copy of it. It's a really good game and it's well worth it. It comes very highly recommended. Thanks for watching. Bye.